Yeah, a lot of differing opinions on this one. There's the free speech angle. Then there's the, hey, it's a private company. They can do what they want. There's everyone should be able to say what they want without a threat of losing their job. And then there's, with speech comes responsibility. It just, every single amendment to the Constitution has this little caveats in there. Like, well, it's this, but could be that. Second Amendment, do not infringe. Oh, but it means a militia. No, Supreme Court said no. That is regulation, but free speech. Fire in a crowded theater. You can yell that, by the way. Oh, my God. It's just so stupid. And hypocrisy abounds when things like this happen. The whataboutism, all the people that are so staunchly embedded in one side, one team, that something they were preaching yesterday is inconsequential today. They don't even think it anymore. And this is one of those situations. So, apparently, Jimmy Kimmel was, at least they said they're canceling or not postponing, preempting the show, Jimmy Kimmel's late night show, indefinitely. I think that means fired. During the O&A days, when we would get fired, there was usually something like, yeah, we're just gonna take you off the air for a little while we look into what happened. And then it was like fired, so fired. So I doubt he's coming back. Yeah, pulls indefinitely after host Charlie Kirk comments. Now, I don't even think his comments were that bad. I've seen a lot worse. I've seen people that I think it was justified that they got fired for their comments. Anthony, wait a minute. You're a free speech guy. How could you say someone's comments would justify their firing? Please hold. A lot of the people on the left, especially the lunatics, they seem, some of them, I don't know. I'm surprised, by the way, that they had jobs at all. We had always spoken about these people like they didn't have jobs. And some of them had some pretty righteous jobs. Hi, this is Anthony Cumia.
Hello, I'm Gavin McInnes.
And together we're Compound Censored.
And we would like you to subscribe with this deal using this promo code right below me right now.
Do it, because it's very entertaining. So they go online and they post some really nasty shit. Not just disagreeing with Charlie Kirk. They're saying he's dead. It's a good start. The threatening, I can't even say what they say, but threatening his family, his wife and kids, threatening Trump, threatening MAGA people, just really repugnant shit. Now, is this, unless it's a threat, unless it's a physical threat to somebody, is it protected speech to say, good, I'm glad he's dead. I hope this happens or this happens. Yeah, there's really nothing there that isn't protected under the First Amendment. But here's where it gets a little challenging for some people to understand. When you work for a company, they have ultimate power over you. There are certain things they can't do. They can't enslave you. There is a constitutional amendment there that says that they can't just enslave you and have you work at their company for no compensation. So even though they're a private company, there are things they have to do that are in the interest of people's rights. Now, the First Amendment gets a little weird there. If you're saying something that the people, your employers, don't agree with, they really do have a right to fire you. Now, you can call them you can say that they're being unconstitutional, but the basic companies and corporations in this country, unless they're government entities, really don't have to. They don't have to adhere to that. Oh, he's spouting all kinds of propaganda around to everyone's cubicle. He's distributing flyers around the office to people that say, I am pro-abortion. Now, you would think that falls in line with the First Amendment, but a company that doesn't want to see that, doesn't agree with it, doesn't like the idea that you're spending company time doing this, whatever, they can fire you. Now, let's say it's not on company time, it's not on company property, your home or in your apartment on 51st Street and 8th Avenue, you're a shock jock, or any one of these libs that have recently been fired, and you post something that your employer considers terrible, awful, not in line with their morality or standards or something. Yeah, they have a right to fire you. Yeah. I never tried to pursue a lawsuit against SiriusXM. I wasn't that stupid. I understand the dynamic between employee and employer. And the fact that if you say things that they don't like, they can fire you. Now, I thought they were being hypocritical in that I said much worse things on their airwaves and was paid handsomely for it for many years. And then on my own time, when I decided to post on Twitter at the time that there was a problem with violence in the black community, they deemed that being horribly racist. All right, it's their company. I really didn't have any recourse. I knew that. So I built my own company. I built my own broadcast company. And for 10 years, it kept me going. It gave me the ability to voice whatever opinion I wanted, to post whatever I wanted on social media, and I didn't have to worry about a boss. See how that works? But if you have a boss or employers and they don't like what you're posting, they absolutely have the right to fire you. And here's another thing, and I had just posted this on X. It doesn't even necessarily have to be what you wrote. What did this guy write? Well, he wrote that something to the effect of, fuck Charlie Kirk. I'm glad he's dead. Ha ha. Blood squirted out of his neck. Just being really repulsive with his comments. And then the employer sees that. He's doxxed. It's sent to the employer. The employer goes, oh. And nothing he said on there was a threat, but the employer reads it and goes, I don't care what he wrote, word for word. The type of person that would write this or something like it, I don't want them working at my company. I don't want someone with so heartless and with such a fucking just unsympathetic view of a father and husband being murdered graphically in front of a crowd of people. You really don't want that. Yeah, there it is. These newly unemployed libs have to realize it's not what you posted. It's not your freedom of speech being infringed upon. It's that your employer doesn't want a person with the ability to be so cruel and unsympathetic to another human being working for them. If you have someone working for you that on social media, they're voicing that they want a certain group of people, race, sex, political affiliation. You want them murdered. You want to see them die. Do you want to take the chance that they might one day come in there with a weapon and kill fellow employees or you, the boss, because of your take on Charlie Kirk or anything else? No. So you fire them. Is it a First Amendment right? No, it's this guy, I don't like the fucking vibe of this guy vibe. That's what it is. It had nothing to do with the First Amendment at that point. But Anthony, you were fired from Sirius. Did they fire you because they didn't want somebody with that ideology working for them? You could look up 10 years of material of me saying what I said when I posted that tweet. There was nothing in that tweet that was off track of what I had said for 10 years on Sirius XM and XM before that. You ever hear Bowling for Behave? You ever see see versus Nazi? When we did that with Patrice, I wore a Nazi helmet, and Patrice, big black guy, and we tried to hail the same cab and see who the cab would stop for, or a Nazi. We did that. That was done. The bosses loved it, patted us on the back, gave us raises. It's fantastic. So to try to say that the employer, the powers that be at Sirius XM Satellite Radio, saw my post and went, oh my God, how are we allowing this guy in the building? Look at his take on the black community and crime. And no, I think you'd be very hard pressed to use that in my firing. But these Democrats and liberals and what the fuck, they are coming off as heartless, cruel, dangerous people in these comments. You know, is this Nazi? Yeah, there you go. There's Patrice trying to hail a cab. I was hailing the cab by doing a Heil Hitler with a German World War II helmet on. Yeah, that was great. The good old days. The footage looks so old because it is old, but it just looks, boy, at the time you don't think like that. You think it, at that time, looking back at footage from 20 years ago or so was like, oh my God. Yeah. Wow, that's old. It's grainy, kids waving at the camera, Christmas. And then you see that and you're like, oh fuck, that looks like that now. Yeah, that was great. But that's the kind of stuff we were doing. And as far as race goes, I was on every day. It was, part of the show. It was part of my character, like Mr. Amos uses characters. In-depth racial discussions with Patrice O'Neill and Bill Burr would come in. What's his name? Mooney.
Paul, right?
Paul Mooney. We had racial discussions. D.L. Hughley, which I talked about on Twitter the other day, what an asshole he is. But I would have racial discussions with them and bring up the exact same points I brought up in those vicious, racist tirade tweets that got me fired back in 2014. So, I think I've made my point with as far as that goes. You'd be very hard pressed to say, well, the company was surprised at Anthony's take on race in this country. And they read his tweet and said, oh, we can't have him working here. That's bullshit. And even then I knew that I had no case for for being fired unjustly. Now, these people are nurses, some of them, teachers. Could you imagine that? There's a nurse that is saying horrific things about a man bleeding out in front of a couple of thousand people and his own family. And because of his political ideology, that nurse is chuckling at it and saying that it's awesome, and she hopes it happens to more people that supported Charlie Kirk. This is a caretaker. And you think the employer where she works, a doctor's office, a hospital, a care center, a retirement community, you think they want a person that has the ability to be that fucking cruel and heartless? They want them working there? Caregivers? Teachers, same thing. You want a teacher blurting that shit out to their students? I think it makes the classroom unsafe, having a teacher that's so insensitive to life and death like that, based on nothing but someone's ideology. I mean, I think we can all agree, even though all of us won't agree, Charlie Kirk wasn't a violent person. Most everything he said was aligned with civil rights leaders. But he did add in some truth to things like the criminal element and the fact that trans women are not women. These are common sense issues. And they're volatile issues. They get people mad. And unfortunately, the left doesn't allow themselves anger without answering with some form of violence. And that's what we see. So when people cheer this on, they're going to get fired. Your employer doesn't want that. Doesn't want that element walking around their office. Doesn't want to pay you money when you're a heartless, cruel, inhuman piece of shit. You go into your office and get a kitten, and then just twist the kitten's head off in the office. You go, what? I was expressing my hatred of kittens. Freedom of speech, First Amendment, expressing myself. You're getting fired. You're a lunatic. Now, it might not be that, to that extent of murdering a kitten in the workplace, but if you show yourself to be insensitive to basic human empathy and sympathy, people, goodbye. You're fired. Goodbye. Sorry. Don't want you here. First Amendment. Shut up. It is not. It isn't a First Amendment issue. Now, where the Kimmel firing has at least an element of First Amendment right infringement in it, is that the director of the FCC did say something publicly prior to Kimmel being fired. And he said that we might have to look into if any FCC regulations were violated when Charlie Kirk, he kind of assumed or insinuated that the person that killed Charlie Kirk was MAGA. Just like them, one of them, he said, when he was talking about the assassin, that he said that the MAGA people, Trump supporters, whatever, are saying whatever they can to not acknowledge the fact or whatever, that he's one of them. And that's where people are saying he blatantly lied to the public on ABC airwaves. And I don't know what the context is. And I've been in broadcasting. I've been under the umbrella of the Federal Communications Commission many, many years. And I don't know what the criteria is. Can someone comedically say something and be held to a different standard than a news broadcaster. You get what I'm saying? You know, if one of the anchors on ABC Nightly News came on and blatantly lied like that and tried to say that the assassin was indeed one of them, MAGA, Trump supporter, I would think the station would fire that, or could fire that person, and you wouldn't hear any outcry. You wouldn't hear any outcry because you probably hear some from the left. They can't stop fucking outcrying. But I'm talking, you know, again, the meaty part of the curve of Americans. Because you could say, yeah, this guy's supposed to have some journalistic integrity. I don't think Kimmel's supposed to have journalistic integrity. He's proven to show no integrity whatsoever for anything. So when he said that in his monologue, which consists of, whether you laugh or not, it's kind of a comic monologue. Was he being fired by ABC management, the upper echelon, the board of directors, because of what he said, or because of what the director of the FCC said when he said we might have to look into this? No fucking broadcast company wants their license on the chopping block while the FCC looks into stuff. In this day and age, so many broadcast companies are constantly buying up other entities, splitting up and putting other companies that they used to own, and they get acquired. It happens constantly. And it takes a long time, and it needs FCC approval. And if you have an FCC investigation going on, you can't follow through with your business deal. If you want to spin off part of your company, you want to absorb another company in broadcasting, you can't do that while there's an investigation going on. We look back at the old Infinity Broadcasting days. Howard Stern had so many pending cases with the FCC. And I'll tell you what Infinity Broadcasting used to do. CBS would do it too when CBS bought Infinity Broadcasting. They litigated. They just litigated for years. There were some of these cases, you know, you'd get the transcript from the FCC and it would say, you said this, you mentioned taking a crap in a toilet and reaching in and throwing it at someone. These are bodily function things. You'd get all these FCC complaints that would transcribe what you did on the show that was deemed obscene, not obscene. There were like different levels of it. Obscene was like really bad. And I forget what all of them are, but the station, the company would just litigate it forever. They never paid a fine. With all of the complaints Howard Stern and the O&A show got, they never paid a fine to the FCC because they just continued to litigate it forever. They didn't care. With Howard and the O&A show also, we were syndicated to other markets. And the way the rules worked, if you were fined in a syndicated market, you then had to be fined for all the markets you were in. And they weren't going to do that. It was cheaper. They had lawyers working for the company. So it didn't cost them any more than it really did just having the lawyers on retainer constantly. All right, here's your job for today. Just go to court and postpone it more, give some shit, do some habeas corpus. And that was what used to happen. Well, once Infinity wanted to sell, the owners of Infinity wanted to sell, I think it was to Viacom at the time, whatever it was, they couldn't have any pending FCC cases. So they, again, and they didn't want to, go on record as having paid a fine to the FCC. So they made a donation to the FCC of, I don't know, a few $1 million, I think it was, between 1 and 5 million somewhere. And that got rid of all the cases. And Infinity isn't looked at as ever paying an FCC fine, and they can move forward with the merger. So it's all bullshit. So what my point is with that little anecdote, it's all bullshit. It's all corporate maneuvering and wrangling and making deals. And like I said, if there is any type of First Amendment infringement, it would be ABC or Jimmy Kimmel, the Jimmy Kimmel Show, whoever, suing ABC and Disney for firing him based on a threat made to ABC from the federal government. That's their case. Their case isn't, oh, you said something and we have freedom of speech and ABC fired you. ABC has no fucking, they don't have to adhere to the freedom of speech First Amendment. They don't have to. You probably could want to. If you're a broadcasting company, you want to have the people assume that you want to give the people working for you the freedom to express themselves, especially on a talk show or something. But it's not the law. They don't have to. What is the law is if a federal agency gets involved and forces a company to fire someone based on what they said. Now you might have something there. But now we have to look at how specific what the FCC director said. Was there anything else besides that, behind the scenes conversations that went on between the FCC and ABC? Were there any threats made? You want that deal to go through? Get rid of Jimmy Kimmel. That would be a glaring infringement on the First Amendment. But we don't know if that even happened. And from what I read that the FCC commissioner said, saying we're going to look into something, I really don't think you could hammer that down to government infringement on freedom of speech through ABC and then to Jimmy Kimmel. We're going to, the FCC has plenty of times has said, we're going to look into this. We're looking into this. This could be a violation. And the company, by the way, I think me and Opie were on the receiving end of this a few times. The company fires you. I think the mayor prank. There's an FCC rule when we April Fool's Day, the Opie and Anthony show, we went on the air and said Mayor Menino, the mayor of Boston at the time, was killed in a car crash. And they were looking for an FCC violation and reporting it to the FCC. And the FCC was looking into it. They said, we are looking into this. And we were fired. Now, does that mean that the FCC looking into it pressured the broadcast company that owned WAAF into firing us? Would AAF have fired us if the FCC hadn't said we're going to look into this? Because that's almost the same thing. There was a threat of looking into it, but they were justified in looking into it. I think there was some kind of rule that said if you get on the air and say anything that might induce panic among the people, I don't know how often Mayor Marble Mouth Menino would have panicked the residents of Boston, Massachusetts, but they were looking for anything. And the FCC said they were looking into it, and we got fired. You know, we could claim the same thing. Well, the FCC saying they're going to look into it, the brass at AAF might have gotten nervous and just said, get rid of them. And they were going to be acquired by the same company, CBS, that owned WNEW that we went to. So do you think they wanted an FCC complaint at that time when they were going through selling their company? It's the same thing. No, you fire us. And then CBS hired us at WNEW New York. We wound up working for the same company that actually fired us. Technically. It all worked out in the end is all I'm trying to say. But yeah, so I think a lot of people want to take this to the umpteenth level with this FCC commissioner saying something. He said one thing. What he said has to be taken in that context. You can't just say just because he said something means that it was government infringement on Jimmy Kimmel's First Amendment right. What did he say? Was there anything else? Were any papers or texts or emails traded that made any threats to any deals ABC wanted to do if they didn't get rid of Jimmy Kimmel? Or was it just the FCC commissioner saying, we will look into this and see if any violations to FCC regulations were made during Jimmy Kimmel's monologue on his show? That's a huge difference. Huge difference. It's the only thing that could possibly make this a First Amendment issue. And I barely hear anyone talking about that angle of it. It's mostly emotional assholes saying that his rights were infringed upon by ABC, taking him off for what he said. And that isn't even close to it. You have to go that other step to the Federal Communications Commission and see what their past couple of days have been with ABC and Disney before you could draw any First Amendment infringement conclusions. So that's my take on the Jimmy Kimmel thing. Hi, this is Anthony Cumia.
Hello, I'm Gavin McInnes.
And together we're Compound Censored.
And we would like you to subscribe with this deal using this promo code right below me right now.
Do it, because it's very entertaining.